Wow, we have had a long day and I'm so excited because we have my friend Sailaja joining us. It's morning in India and we've been crisscrossing the globe all day. We started in Latin America, went over to Africa, then to South America twice, and now we're in Asia, but we're in India. We were just in Japan for a couple of moments talking to Giuseppe. But this panel is very fascinating and actually very close to me. And the reason why is if some of you have a little bit of knowledge of Saya, Saya is the name of my daughter, and the investment in cybersecurity awareness is really personal to me. It's about investing in education into our future and our families, and that is represented here in this next talk. So Sailaja is going to be talking about cyber hygiene in the family. So I want to hand over the scene and the stage to her and let her introduce herself, because this is something I believe a lot of us forget is we spend so much money and investment in working in organizations, but we also forget sometimes our family unit are the most important, and I will look at it as crown jewels, and that's something we really need to focus in on. So for that, I hope that you all enjoy this next talk. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan, for the quick intro. And I know it's been a long day for all of you, and for all my friends in India, and for all the friends from US and across the globe. Thank you all for joining at this point of time. And as Jonathan mentioned, this topic is also like cyber hygiene, happy, healthy homes is something close to my heart because of the reason, because I'm a mom of two kids. And when you have two younger kids at home, it is more important than ever because all of us are getting connected virtually, digitally due to this COVID. And it's more important for all of us to understand one more time what's the importance and what are the do's and don'ts to protect ourselves and our families. And just before getting into the talk, I just want to quickly introduce myself. So I'm Sailaja Vadlamudi, having 17 plus years of experience. I am currently working with SAP, and I'm heading security and data privacy unit for S4HANA Produce, which is our flagship product. And I had the experience of handling 70 to 80 teams across the globe on on application security, cloud security, and data privacy. And I'm also a certified information security manager, and I also did a couple of things in-house, the threat modeling, the GDPR, and the China cybersecurity law. I think I don't have to explain in this round why privacy is important, what kind of laws we have across the globe now. And from past 2 years, I've also been consciously coming out, as Kelly mentioned, my previous co-speaker, like there is only a 20% representation of women in this field. So I just started coming out from past 2 years and giving several talks on cybersecurity and data privacy. And I'm also a technical member in the National Cyber Defense Center. And not only this, I also founded with Women in Cybersecurity and Privacy because in India, from time to time, at least when I observe a lot of things, not only just in India, across the globe, there are a lot of these students and younger children from the rural areas. They are the biggest victims for all these cyber attacks or the cyber hackers. And what are we planning to do with this is we are trying to raise awareness for the young girls and also the young women. And at the same time, we are also focusing on kids, trying to gamify security for them, trying to help them to understand the do's and don'ts, and trying to build and secure communities so that the losses are really less for all of us. And I think I don't have to explain a bit why is it important to wash hands, because across the globe we have been consistently hearing about it. So if I have to relate, cyber hygiene is just like how we have to, it's kind of an habit of hand washing. And one more thing is, we keep telling our kids from the time they are born till they grow to an age, never cross the road alone, always brush your teeth, and never talk to strangers, and so on and so forth. I could really say this is really something we can compare with the cyber, era as well. Because when I say never cross the road alone, I can always say like never leave the kids unattended with digital devices. When we say always brush your teeth before your bed, I always say, turn off your voice assistants while sleeping. And never talk to strangers, so never share your personal or confidential information. And maybe we'll just touch upon each of these when we move on. Uh, so all of us have been across the globe, has been asked to work from home. So is it bringing us a harm or is it going to be healthy? working from home is also kind of bringing us certain challenges, like parents are working from home and kids are asked to join their online classes sometimes. And when you have still younger kids, you have to keep them engaged the whole day. We don't have baby crushes or whatever, so everyone is at home. And so what I noticed is sometimes the kids are so busy with the devices. So I just wanted to tell people, like, of course we are so busy with work, but then when we say our family is the crown jewel for all of us, so we just have to consciously make sure we are having an eye on the device and the kind of content the kids are watching. Because from time to time, I also read a lot of news about the cyber domain, what is happening across the globe. When all of us look about what happened on the Zoom platform and the students are attending the online classes in Singapore, I think I don't have to go in bit more details there. So having such experiences, because now at least in Asian region, all of the schools are also trying out different new kind of platforms to enable this online classes. So my suggestion would be, like, whenever the children are attending these online sessions, be with them and try to check, because we are not sure about the secure aspects of the platforms. And nowadays, each and every kid has access to their digital devices, and 90% of the kids having access to these devices, they say they are the victims of cyberbullying. And recently, something I've seen on the, one of my friends shared this, and I also saw this on the media, which also really felt my, warmed my heart, because it's like, uh, what is happening across the globe, because kids are becoming so much digitally connected, and their emotions and all of this. And in this case, there is an young boy who is part of who is going to school, and he has a set of his friends. And since he is a teenager, he is also having his own phone. And one day, they've been doing a lot of pranks on the WhatsApp group, and they've been adding this guy, deleting this guy, adding and deleting. And it's been happening for quite some time. And there were one fine day, they just deleted this particular child from the WhatsApp group, and without any second thought, he just committed suicide. And this is very sad to see, kids are getting cyberbullied and then trying to take some harsh decisions of really ending up these lives. And I definitely know, irrespective of any region, irrespective of any continent we are in, kids are our utmost priority for all of us. So it's really a responsibility to ensure what's happening in their world and have an eye close to that. And is technology helping us to do this? Yes, for sure. And let's quickly look into the statistics. 50% of the theft is of the children which are of below 6 years old, and every day there are millions and millions of sex predators active on the internet, and 34% of the kids have been cyberbullied in their lifetime, and 45% of the kids say that online safety is like not not known to them. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of controls, there are a lot of parental controls available in the market. So what we can do is we can just decide which controls to use, because like any other technological tools, we also have several set of tools. So we just decide, and then the next important thing is just don't have them installed without telling your children. Talk to your children and then implement them across all three areas, that is like router, devices, and programs. And then monitor the system, and then keep tracking it and looking into it. And here I just would like to highlight one thing, is there are a lot of platforms the kids are trying to enter in, because they have access to all of this digital stuff. Some of the messages which I'm putting on the screen, like the previous example I mentioned, like this child has really taken the harsh decision of losing his life because someone has told him he's not worth of it, or whatever it is. So especially from my observations, this WhatsApp group, this Facebook, and all this social media are the target platforms for hackers for sending cyberbullying messages to this teen kids. So what we have to ensure, or how we have to educate our kids is, do not respond or react tantrum to the bullies. And sometimes it's also easy to say deny their attention. As I mentioned in the beginning of my talk, I have two little boys at home, and from time to time, I keep. So I think most of the parents can relate to this. When you have two little children at home, they pick up fights every now and then. So these days, I'm trying to tell them that's okay. When your brother is telling something, just ignore it. You don't have to consider everything. When we make all this little habits when they are really angry, and then when they get into this cyber zone, then it's easy for them to deny and then to disagree to whatever people are telling so that they don't take any kind of harsh decisions. Yeah, and then we can also tell them if somebody is trying to target them and then kind of sending some messages which are not acceptable, we can also tell them to just simply delete those guys. And then in case if it is getting on and on, then we also have to offer them the support and let them know, like they can report. There are different kind of channels where they can go and mention about it. They can go to the schools or polices, and we have a lot of cyber cells that are available depending on the place and the region you are in, so they don't have to definitely suffer in silence. And most important, like when you have this parental controls, we just have to have trust on both the ends, or not only just from the kid side, but also from the parent side. We just have to let our kids know, like, you are there to not only monitor them of all the activities that are doing in the digital world, but also at the same time we are there to protect and to advocate for them in case if there is some necessity out of any of the actions or the outcomes of being digitally online. This is really most important, to have that trusting relationship when you have this parental controls, and have this dialogue with the kids to make them understand why parents, or why you as a mom, you as a dad want to have these special controls on the devices they have access to, and then give them the confidence and trust, like, we are there to support them, to help them. And generally this is one of my favorite cartoon, I say, when we help our kids to get to a place where if somebody is asking the data, then they just have to understand the reason or the rationale behind asking the data. If kids get into this kind of an awareness, I think nothing like it. We can just be happy about when kids try to think logically from the concept of what's going to happen with my data, why these guys are going to ask my data, so on and so forth. Because when there's a stranger, someone connected to them on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever it is, when people are trying to ask more details about the kids, when the kids start thinking about why do they need my data, and what is this data giving this data about, and why this person is asking so on, for example, my date of birth, my personal email ID, my private phone number, and so on and so forth. So far we've been talking about kids, and let me just also touch upon the elders, who are the key people. We sometimes think like, we are in the cyber domain, we are in the security domain, and nothing is going to harm us. But then the fact is, there are only two categories of people I know on the globe. Someone is like, some people say they're not hacked, and some people say they're hacked. The first category is people not knowing they're being hacked so many times, and the other category, people know they're hacked day in and day out. So these are the only two categories I can say. So this is one of my favorite example, which is a French television broadcasting company here. So they're just one finder. They're unable to broadcast anything. They have 11 channels, and then they claimed it's a cyber attack. And if I have to get into the deeper details of it, and even the French government announced it's an act of terrorism. But then when I just looked into this use case and tried to understand what's the story behind, one of the days, one of the person from TV5 Monday is attending an interview, and he has a wonderful post-it. And that post-it was put next to his desk. And on the post-it, he has written his user ID and password. Yeah, and then when people are watching your channel, there are also people with different kind of motivations, different kind of data they keep watching out. And immediately when it got into the hands of people, like, the user ID and password, they could just get into the systems and they could block everything so that they could not broadcast anything. So ensure, even inside the families, we just make sure you make it a habit of not writing your passwords publicly outside anywhere. Yeah. And then from time to time, there are a lot of, this media, and there's a lot of this social media which gets compromised, and all of this data is available on the dark web. So is the case. There's an instance where LinkedIn got leaked, and there were 117 million accounts have been compromised. And as all of us know here, whenever there is a compromise on the LinkedIn, on the or any other platform, normally all this data is available on the dark web to be bought or to be sold. And one of the smartest guys, I should say, he just went in there and then he just bought the password of our Mark Zuckerberg. He can buy the password of Mark Zuckerberg. Did he buy both the accounts? Not necessarily. He just bought the password of Mark Zuckerberg for LinkedIn, and then immediately what he did was he just tried to give the same password for his Facebook account. Even though he's the founder of Facebook account, our beloved Mark Zuckerberg had the same password, which is da 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 for all of his accounts. So it's no brainer for any person who is handful of scenarios and his and patterns in their mind, and also so freshly in their thoughts, and they could just crack his account. So I just request all of us, I know, in the previous session also when I'm joining, people are telling they have 450 passwords sometimes, and because they have to access a lot of their personal versus their, office and their many other stuff. But I still request all of you to have different passwords, or else have a password manager to manage all of our passwords. And when we are asking our kids, when we are trying to tell our kids, we also have to definitely define the social boundaries, what to do and what not to do with respect to the social media. And this is one of the real use case which happened in the city where I'm currently living in. So there's a couple who is gone to an holiday, and the wife of this particular person, she's so hands on Facebook. So one day she just posted a post telling, hey, look, we're going out for vacation. And then they just went out, and when they came back, the house is entirely empty, so clean. And when they just went and complained in the nearby station, so they started doing in close research on this, what is the real cause of this. And they noticed there is someone who is closely monitoring her for quite some time on the Facebook. And then when she posted this, that person definitely got a clue, like for 2 weeks this couple is not going to stay away from home. So he just went to the house, he opened the lock, and he broke the lock, and then he entered the kitchen. He emptied entire stuff from the refrigerator first, and then the groceries, and then day by day he started taking one or the other item. And by the time they've come back home, everything is so much clean, and they couldn't find even anything in the house. It's so clean as it is a fresh house to start to live with. So I just request, not only just for the teenagers or not only for us, sometimes we just post because we are so excited because, for example, be it Switzerland, be it any other place, or Disneyland, whatever, it's kind of a dream destination for many of us. So when we are planning a travel, or when we booked our tickets, we generally get so excited about it, and then we just go ahead and post it in the media. But then just also think of all these consequences before you posting all that required information on the media, and also the timing. When are you going to post it versus you are trying to post it before your travel versus after your travel? Yeah, and juice jacking is something which is quite popular right from 2011, because from time to time, as we have lot many digital devices, so we have lot of ports that are available all over the place. So what is this? So these ports are used for charging. So, and then what's happening is, even if you just plug in your phone for a quick 60-second power nap, and then it is good enough for the people to compromise your phone's data. And what happens exactly in this juice stacking is, so there are lot many things that can happen. People can think like, so far we've been hearing from day to day, even in India after this pandemic has started, a lot of ransom attacks that are happening across huge organizations. And from time to time, people think like, yeah, because they're such an huge companies, and then they will definitely pay because they can't go out of business in such a situation. So people are paying a lot of ransom and trying to free their systems and their networks and their entire landscape. But then with juice jacking, you can also get ransom. You can also be a victim of ransom. And there are a lot of ways of juice jacking. It is like when, as soon as you plug in your device, they can just install a malware into your device, or sometimes they can just install some program which try to scroll around and try to collect, in case if there is any personal information about your bank details, your credit cards, your passwords. And then they can also install some spywares, trojans, and also some unnecessary apps which will drain your battery. And sometimes it's the worst case scenario is like your mobile gets completely frozen. And only when you pay ransom to this particular hacker or a person who is the reason for this attack, who is the initiator of this attack, only then they will really after receiving the ransom, they're just going to release your phone. So I just encourage all of us to carry our own USB ports and try to avoid this public USB port phone charging as much as you could, because there are a lot of cases that were proved, and it is quite an news for starting from 2011. And because in a family, we have from time to time, kids have their own devices, we have our own devices, we have our personal devices versus our office devices. So one or the other device will run out of battery for sure, but then just have your own handheld equipment available so that you can do your you can quickly have an good power up from your own resources rather than depending on the external resources that are available. And from time to time, whenever we download an app, this is quite common. We see this, Amazon would like to access your microphone and so on and so forth. As part of my role, I sometimes do this gamifying this data privacy topic. So recently we onboarded one of my teams, and I personally went to onboard them on data privacy because this is being very strategic topic for us with respect to the company and also with respect to the market. So I myself want to do it rather than leaving it to my leads. So I just went to do this, and there was a question from one of the key stakeholder. He's like, "Look, Shailaja, I was in the coffee corner with my team, and then we were just normally talking about the new cars that are going to be on the road soon and the features and all of those. As soon as I came back to my machine, suddenly I started seeing all those pictures of the cars, and I don't know like what happened, what's happening behind, who is kind of trying to really watch me and observe me." And my first question is, do you give access, do you have access to microphone? Did you give Google or did you give Siri access to your microphone? And when these different apps have access to your microphone, definitely they're continuously recording all the information or all the conversations that are happening around it. And then they will just try to show up all the items. Then immediately everybody in the room, they were just looking at each other, because knowingly or unknowingly, for example, Amazon, we don't have to give access to a microphone. Same is with many of the apps. Make sure whenever you're installing any of your apps in your in your phone or in any of your digital devices, what kind of access and permissions you're letting the app take over from your device. So I don't have to explain. There are so many devices. We have Siri, we have Alexa, we have Cortana, we have Google Assistant, and so on and so forth. And one of the incident was everybody thinks Apple phones are so secure, iPhones are so secure. To an extent, I also agree to that. But what happened on this is all the conversations on the Siri recordings have been heard by all of the backend team, which is sitting in Ireland, somewhere in Ireland, and the conversations include all business discussions, all confidential discussions, all country-specific discussions, and also the conversations while husband and wife are having their private moments in the bedroom. And when you have all of these discussions, and then Apple apologized, telling, and they immediately fired all of these contract employees who are trying to do this, and now they gave a feature available so that from time to time you can just let Siri delete all the data that is available. If you remember in my first slide, I have mentioned like how you're brushing your teeth before you go to bed. In the similar way, turn off all these devices when you're going to bed, and you don't need to have them on and on every day, because they're continuously picking up the data, picking up the conversation. Even Google has to pause the program in Europe after a leak of recordings because of the laws we have in Europe, GDPR and many other things. So whatever devices we see every now or once in a while they've been compromised, and when they've been compromised it means they're also compromising the kind of conversations, the kind of data they've been processing from all of the day-to-day conversations we are also having at home. So just everybody says so proudly these days, like, I have a digital home, I have Siri, I have Alexa, I have this, my kids are playing with that, and it's good. But then as responsible parents, as responsible citizens, and having known to what all is happening in the world with respect to the compromising of the data and with respect to the patterns of the attacks, we have to be really conscious and careful about. I don't say like we don't have to use these devices, use them consciously and turn them off whenever they are not really required. And this is one of the use cases I've read, which really moved my heart. And there was this couple who are newly married, and they've been to an honeymoon, and they've come back, and it's kind of in they're in a relation for quite some time. And after convincing the parents in India, they got married, and they're really happy couple working in very huge MNCs, having a very happy life. And what happened one day, his phone got repaired. He gave the phone to the repair shop, and then he's come back home, and then he started getting a lot of calls to pay, and kind of threatening him from the repair shop. The reason being, when these guys went on honeymoon, they recorded all of the most of their private moments on the phone. And since suddenly the phone stopped working, they doesn't know how to download the data. And even though they both are techies, having good enough knowledge on the society and the kind of sources they have, they couldn't stand the pressure of having this calls every day. And both of them decided, and both of them together committed suicide. That happened very much in India. And then I think I can say like there can be different kind of cases like this across the globe as well. And just imagine if this is happening to the adults who are working in the tech companies, not going to the required authorities for help, if they're taking harsh decisions to end up their lives. Such use cases are also some of the motives for us to start our organization called WISP, to help people, to bring awareness, to ensure them, like, all of us are human, we do some mistakes, but it kind of notify to people, and then we can really come out of the situation. The same is the case with this little girl. She is a teenager, and then she got in friends with someone unknown on Facebook. And then she got in so close, and she started sharing all of her personal videos to that person. Not only her video, she also started sharing some of her sister's videos while she was taking shower and all that. And this guy started blackmailing her, and she doesn't know what to do. But in the end, we could save her, because she got to tell this to one of her close friend, who is also quite active in the communities. And then they could bring it to the notice of the cyber cells we have, and they could really rescue her and save her. Otherwise, this girl is already thinking to commit suicide, because her data is gone into that stranger, and she really doesn't know what to do with her, what to do with this, how to come out of this situation, and so on and so forth. And this is on the dark web. This is the data I got from quite old. This is quite old. But then in case if you want to buy in 0-day for any of the companies, this is the list. 0-day is something like there is an existing vulnerability that is available in the platform. And then only when someone gets into it, and then they will notify the people, and the particular developers have to patch the system. Why am I talking about this 0-day is sometimes we have a lot of the computers which are not patched. Sometimes we have our desktop computers with our parents, with our grandparents, and they are not so tech savvy, and they don't upgrade, or even they don't have their antivirus installed. So what happens in the background is they will become a zombie computer. So they'll be part of this huge viral network, and even we will not be aware, or they will not be aware, it has been formed a virtual network, and somebody is already taking control of it, and they're trying to do some sophisticated denial of service and DDoS attacks. And which will be kind of not so welcoming kind of in events that are happening around us. So in order to protect our families not to be part of this zombie computers or anything, our request is like just make sure to help them to upgrade all of these systems, because also from time to time, when we see recently there is a spike just before the pandemic itself, and I'm closely observing the hacker patterns and all, they're targeting lots and lots of hospitals. The reason being, these are not tech savvy industry, and most of the times they run on really old operating systems, on very old technologies, and those technologies are prone to have a lot of these issues which are not at all patched. So they're trying to compromise this landscape. So is the case with our family and parents and our elderly parents and our grandparents. So just help them once in a while, telling them to upgrade. And most important thing, we all of us know there is no delete button on the web. When when kids get into this adolescence and then they get into teenage, they get so excited about publishing everything on the internet. And sometimes I also tell my niece and nephews and who are staying abroad and who are staying across the globe, I tell them, at this point of time you have an opinion, but then when you grow you might always change your opinion, and then there is no delete button. And from time to time, I also know many of the companies, the interviewers are trying to check on on this social media, on the Facebook, on Twitter, on your Insta, what is your behavior pattern and what is your personality. They're trying to assess you looking into your social media accounts. When you're a teenager, when you're having different opinions which is not accepted by the people, and which is not the same at the moment, you have changed your opinion, but still it is available on the internet, and then there's no delete button. So it's always good to tell our kids, they don't have to post their strong opinions on the media, because as they grow older they can really change their opinions. And sometimes, as I mentioned this example, this can also harm them to get into some of their they can miss some of their dream opportunities as well with this. And so quickly, I just want to talk about, few do's and don'ts for all of us. Protect our devices, install apps only from trusted sources. Recently, there was a lot of these emails happening on Gmail. Even my husband received one of such email telling there was an email from somebody quoting his old or previous password of Gmail account, and telling, hey, look, we've compromised your account only if you pay an money of $1,000 Bitcoin. We will not share this information. If you fail to respond to us, or if you fail to do this, we will be sharing this entire information on the web, and you will lose your face in front of your family, in front of your friends, in front of your community, and so on and so forth. And when I'm since I'm so active in this community, I heard already such stories from the other part of southern India, wherein such cases have been reported to the cyber cell, and people are already working into it. And at the same time, whenever you receive such emails, immediately go check on your email filters, because when somebody is trying to access, in the worst case, to your accounts, they will not immediately try to bring in a lot of things for you. But then one scenario is, there was a merchant way back in the northeast parts of India, and he's doing his business online, and he sends his goods to other country, and then they send the money to his account, and then he acknowledges. And since he is a really small vendor, he doesn't have the luxury of his own inbox and all that. He is using Gmail. And one fine day, his account has been compromised. In the sense, he even did not realize account has been compromised. He is waiting for a payment from his customer for quite some time. It's close to $5,000. And then when he tried to call the customer, he said, yeah, I have already sent the money. And moreover, I have received an email from you stating, don't send the money to this account, but rather to this account. So what the hackers did, they just got control of this account, and then they changed the filters. Whenever an email is coming in, it goes to them. Yeah, $5,000 is not an big money for many of us, but when I say this is a small vendor based out of northeast part of India, this is really a lot for him. He can even run out of business because of that money he has lost. And don't insert any USB sticks into devices, because these days, from time to time, we have, whenever we go to some events and conferences, we get a lot of this USB devices as gifts or as tokens. And then just make sure when you're inserting your USB sticks into the devices, how harmful they are, and have consciously take this decision of inserting something you got it from somebody whom you doesn't know. and then have strong and different passwords, and definitely reach out for help. We don't have to take harsh decisions. We all are human. We tend to do something out of our emotions, out of our excitement sometimes, but it's okay. We don't have to be so harsh on us and trying to take some harsh decisions and ending our lives. And especially for the children, this topic is so close to my heart, as I am also a mom of two kids here. And then teaching children the healthy habits of using internet is really, really most important. And then have an ongoing dialogue about what kind of apps they're looking into, and then what kind of things they're doing into, and what kind of conversations they're having with friends. Is somebody troubling them? What kind of groups they are part of? And just have an open dialogue. And moreover, kids, we are the first role models for kids before they get into the world, before they get a lot of info from the world. And then you're your first child's point of contact. At the same time, you're the role models, and they definitely observe. Recently, one of my little boy, who is 6 years old, one day was asking me, "Mom, I just wanted a phone for myself after COVID." I'm like, "What?" Because in my home, I don't, they don't have their own devices so far, and I avoided it as far as I could so that they still get into their senses, and it is working for me at the moment. So I encourage them to read a lot of books. I also read a lot of books with them, and as I said, kids learn a lot of things from us. And for many of my friends, it's so surprising, like, how do I manage my home without any screen time, or without screens, special screens for the kids. And he is asking me, "Mom, I wanted my phone." I am like, "For what?" "I want to have in on my phone." I'm like, "What is that?" "So you're most of the times you're in." So he means LinkedIn. I said, "Yeah, LinkedIn is meant for the professional." So he's like, "Yeah, whenever you go to give your talks, you're putting all the data on LinkedIn." So I'm like, so sweetheart, what do you want to do with the LinkedIn?" He said, "From time to time, I have a lot of my assignments at school to talk about something, to draw about something. So I can also ask my teachers or my friends to record, and I can post it on LinkedIn." You see, so it means my kid is already giving an alarm telling I'm spending a lot of my time on LinkedIn. So we have to be really careful, because kids do a lot of, observation from parents, and they also try to pick it up from us. And I just also want to quickly sum it up, because I think it takes a village, as the old saying goes. The schools, and it takes a village to uh, bring a child. And then it's not different as in this digital era, because it takes a village, the schools, the tech companies, and the religious communities. It's each of us together can try to build this cyber awareness to our kids, starting from an early age till they get into teens, so that they're at least prepared for all these circumstances. And from time to time, also quote some examples which are happening, as I mentioned now, and tell it to your kids. Sometimes when I give a lot of my workshops to all my management group, and I also give a lot of workshops, because I know I take examples of teenagers getting compromised, and everyone gets connected, because it has to be like a storytelling, so that people can really connect to your story, and it is also impacting their lives, and they can never forget it when you tell it like a story. But then I just want to conclude, we have all of this, but in the end, you are your child's first point of contact. So have continuous dialogue with them, have closely monitoring them, and with that, we can just avoid all of this. And with that, I would like to open for questions, and if not, I would like just to say thank you. And this is one of my famous quote: "It wasn't training when knowable the art." So we don't have to wait till a disaster happens in our families with respect to our devices, or with respect to any compromises of our data of our devices we have access to. So we have to act before something goes wrong. Like no one, make sure we are hygiene, and then which will also help us when you're having a cyber hygiene. For sure, you will have a lot of happiness and health, because you're not undergoing any stress. All the examples I mentioned earlier definitely leads a lot of stressful moments. So when you have this habit of cyber hygiene, right from the childhood to your kids, and also to your family, to your elderly parents, because they're not in the digital era how we are in, but they still have access to the devices. So it's our responsibility as the people who are in this domain to let them understand why it is important. With this, I would like to end up my talk. And yeah.
Oh, thank you, Sailaja. That was very nice. It was resonating with me. That last couple of things that you were talking about when you said, "What is this thing with LinkedIn?" And it's fascinating because children model behavior, and we have to model the behavior that we're telling them. If we're saying minimizing screen time, but we're on the phone all the time because of our work, we really have to know what that communicates to our children. So there's a lot of things about what you're saying resonated very well with what I was thinking of. So appreciate that. We're going to have you again here. We're going to be doing this often. We started in Tokyo as a live edition, so maybe we could do something more closer to your home and we can do this something live.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And thank you so much for having me, and have a good sleep, both of you, Clary and Jonathan. You've been live all the time. Whenever I'm sending a message, you guys are always there. And I wish you all the best also for Saya University, and looking forward to join and contribute on your vision of impacting 1 million people.
Oh, wonderful. 1 billion. 1 billion,
yeah.
Yes.
1 billion, yes. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Have a good day.
Yeah, same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The future is now.